Discrimination at a Pride event. That's what we'll be discussing today on the Hodcast. Okay, free thinkers, we're about to jump headfirst into a quagmire of left-wing projection, doublethink and Marxism. But first, the housekeeping. If you could, by all means, subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell and like the video. And if you could, leave a comment in the comments section because that really helps me out. Okay, hold your breath, hold your nose and let's go. Okay, so we're going to start with the incident itself, which was recently, over the last couple of days, in Manchester, England, in which a Pride event faced complete anarchy after numerous accusations of prejudice were levelled by the attendees at other attendees and the organisers of the Pride event. The accusations focus around a number of Black and Asian attendees who claim that they were followed around the event area. They were denied entry to bars, which is highly subjective there. You don't know, nobody really knows why they were denied access to the bars. This is a Pride event. There must be some other reason as to what they've given. They were not served in clubs. Again, that is also entirely subjective. It could be, excuse me, could be they were just too drunk. Could be they were highly intoxicated and they refused service. But of course, being deeply entrenched in Marxist grievance politics, they could have took this as, you're only doing it because of the colour of my skin and etc, etc. The usual, the reason, okay? Manchester Pride's chief executive said that he was very angry but not surprised at these accusations. Now, that is very revealing in itself because it shows you that accusations of discrimination being levelled at the Pride event itself is nothing new. Other accusations levelled at the white attendees of the Pride event were that they touched and harassed other Pride goers, with one person trying to justify their actions by saying, "I love black men." Now, how is this hateful? Surely that is a compliment. Only in the twisted, bizarre, illogical mindset that is the Marxist left is saying "I love you" be considered as something bad or negative. Now, the events in Manchester got me wondering, is this a one-off or has it happened before? So I did a bit of digging, a good bit of sleuthing I might add, and I've came across a number of things that I think you should take notice of. Now, this is a Vice article. I don't like Vice. I think Vice 99% of the time is a left-wing Marxist gutter rag. However, when they are commenting on their own people, then you should take note. And here they have, this is an article they've done about a study in which 51% of people of colour experience bigotry in the alphabet communities. Well, imagine my shock. After all, these are the people who are utterly obsessed with your immutable characteristics. You have to remember the people on the left are obsessed with who you are and what you are, not what you've done and what you're capable of. Those are thoroughly right-wing, meritocracy-based viewpoints, which is utterly opposed to the left. The two are like chalk and cheese. Us on the right believe that whoever you are, regardless of anything, regardless of your immutable characteristics, you should have an equal and fair opportunity to succeed in the wider world based on what you're capable of. Whereas the left believe that those who are of certain immutable characteristics, most notably the ethnic origin of the person, but also their sexuality, their gender, any religion or disability. According to the left, these are the things that absolutely define you beyond anything else, certainly beyond any merit you have. So the article explains how over half of those in the alphabet community in Great Britain have at some point been allegedly the victim of discrimination based on their immutable characteristics such as race or ethnicity by other people in the alphabet community. Now, like with anything in life, a lot of things come down simply to perspective. For example, an anecdote is given in this article in which somebody says, and I quote, "In an LGBT bar on more than one occasion, drunk people have come over to pet my hair and ask what he says is inappropriate questions regarding my race." One Scottish respondent, Abelli, told Stonewall, which is a non-profit organisation. Okay, so what we can deduce from this is, if you look at it with an unbiased, level-headed perspective, is that this person is merely trying to broach a discussion with you. He probably has never met you before. He's probably trying to open up a discussion with you based on something he feels comfortable about asking. You have to remember, as a left-wing member of the alphabet community, he has been most likely also a student at college. He has been indoctrinated by Marxist professors to believe that the most important thing about you is your immutable characteristics. Therefore, the first thing he's going to ask a question about you on is your immutable characteristics. He has been convinced, or brainwashed would be a better word to use, that to be of your ethnicity is the absolute best thing about you. Therefore, he's going to ask a question in regards to that. Doesn't matter if you're a nuclear physicist. Doesn't matter if you are a doctor who finds a cure for cancer. At the end of the day, these people have been convinced and indoctrinated, I might add, into believing that immutable characteristics are the most important thing. Therefore, he has sidled up to you in this bar to broach a subject with you, to get a conversation going, most likely hoping to take you home with him, and he's spoken to you about something he was hoping you would respond favourably to. If this wasn't enough for you, next we head over to The Root, which is another website, radical left, pro everything that is against my traditional beliefs. However, I am open-minded and level-headed and fair, so I give everything an unbiased opinion. Here we have yet another case of alleged discrimination in the alphabet community by members of the alphabet community. Here we have, as a black transgender woman, I have not always felt included in Pride. To be honest with you, I haven't. The LGBTQ community has not always been the most welcoming to trans people or people of colour. Well, imagine my shock. I really can't imagine that there's a lot of love in the alphabet community at all. Here, further in the article, we read how on the event day, when they actually had their parade, all the police officers present were told not to take part in their parade, allegedly as a sign of respect. And it says here, and I'm paraphrasing them here, quote unquote, because, you know, black folks go to Pride and a cop just got away with killing one of their own. You see how the language that's used, one of their own. It's very tribal. This is the problem they have in the left in general, not just the alphabet community, but the left in general. They are super tribal. Okay, now tribalism is in itself isn't too bad, but it has to be applied evenly. You can't accuse one person of being racist for being tribal, whereas in the same token, or on the flip side of that coin, you actually praise another group of people for them being tribal. You have to apply it evenly. I thought you was all about equality. That's what you've been telling us. You are all about equality. Brianna Lawrence, the author of this op-ed, goes on further to state, and I'm paraphrasing her here, beyond the exhaustive lesson of there being absolutely no comparison between a chosen occupation, for example law enforcement, and the skin I was born in, I thought there would be a bit of empathy because Castile was killed in our city. Castile was the black male who was killed by a police officer, especially at Pride, an event that celebrates a movement that began with queer folks rioting against the police, a movement where queer people of colour were front and centre. Let me tell you something, Brianna. If you are in a position where you can openly challenge the police in any society and get away scot-free without being rounded up and sent to concentration camps, I can assure you, you are not being discriminated against. Next stop on this train ride of left-wing self-flagellation is, of course, the Toronto Pride March. And here the organisers of the Toronto Pride Parade have issued a wide-ranging apology, and that's their, I'm paraphrasing them here, for what they have described as, and I quote, a history of racism and marginalisation within the Toronto and wider Canadian alphabet community movement. Now, I'm not sure if you can remember it was a few years ago now, we're talking 2015 to 16 time, when the Black Lives Matter movement actually invaded the Pride March in Toronto and issued a series of obligatory demands, because of course they would. And no sooner had the Black Lives Matter movement issued their series of demands to the Toronto Pride movement, the Toronto Pride movement caved in like a house of cards. The article goes on to state how the Toronto Pride movement knew that for many years the black queer community has had to fight for their rightful place in the Pride Festival. Fight for space, fight for recognition, and fight for support, reads the apology posted on the Pride website. So reading between the lines there, we can see that there was obviously previously there'd been quite a hostile atmosphere towards those people they considered outsiders, which of course is the opposite of inclusivity. It goes on to state how, so when we received these demands, we understood that they are reflective of a long and difficult history between Pride and black queer communities, but now also understand them to be reflective of our current efforts or lack thereof to improve relationships with Pride's black community and other marginalised communities. Well, it's you that's marginalising them. Let me tell you something, as a right-wing conservative person, I have never excluded anyone based on any of their immutable characteristics. I look towards people based on their actions and their ideas, and I enjoy debating with them, as pretty much everyone else on the right does. We judge people on their actions, what they have done. We don't judge people on their immutable characteristics, which I'm afraid to say is a thoroughly left-wing Marxist socialist practice.